Vince19 here, and in this edition of 5 for Fun, I highlight 5 original Xbox games that, statistically speaking, can be considered hidden gems in the truest sense of the phrase. If you're looking to discover a new original Xbox game that may have passed you by, then join me for the next few minutes and take a peek at what I've found. Now before diving in, let's discuss the parameters of what I mean when I say a statistically hidden gem. It involves a 3-stage filtering process: original sales, review scores, and exclusivity. Sales-wise, I'm limiting the selection pool to those games that originally sold no more than 50,000 units in the United States. The average Xbox game sold around 225,000 units in the US, so this is a pretty strict filter. And it should be strict, because a game can hardly be considered a hidden anything if there are hundreds of thousands of copies floating around today. There were more than 800 games released on the Xbox in North America, but this first criterion of only looking at those games in the bottom 25% of sales leaves us with just around 238 games. A great first step in filtering. And next, I'm limiting this to those games that scored highly on IGN's original review of the game. And out of the 238 games with no more than 50,000 in sales, only 28 of them had an IGN score at or above an 8.1, a score that I consider to be very solid. I'm also including GameSpot's review scores in this video to add a little balance and a second opinion. Finally, out of those 28 remaining games, I'm only going to consider those games that were Xbox exclusive or quasi-exclusive, at least originally. This takes the list way down to just 8 games, and from those 8, I've selected the top 5 games that can be considered true statistically hidden gems. Number 5. Kicking off the list with 40,000 units sold originally, it's Crimson Sea. This one pulled an 8.1 score from IGN and a 7.5 from GameSpot. Very respectable scores. IGN described the game as intense, fast-paced, and with a lot to like, especially for the more hardcore of gamers. They pointed to the variety of gameplay types as helping to separate this game from the pack, and GameSpot agreed, saying that the game really stands out among the big wave of third-person action games that were so common at the time. You can pick this one up relatively cheaply today on eBay, going for around $9 loose and $12 complete, according to PriceCharting.com. Number 4. A game that originally sold 50,000 units, coming in just under our sales ceiling. It's Call of Cthulhu: Dark Corners of the Earth, published by Bethesda, a company that can't seem to get any positive press these days. This one scored an 8.2 from IGN and an 8.3 from GameSpot. Solid scores, extremely solid. IGN said that the game is a creepy and satisfying experience. They pointed to the game's uniqueness as a big selling point, comparing it favorably to Eternal Darkness on the GameCube, one of my all-time favorite games. And GameSpot agreed, calling it a fun game drenched with intense atmosphere. Unfortunately today, this one's a little on the pricey side, going for around $40 loose and $47 complete. Number 3. With around 40,000 copies sold, it's Otogi 2: Immortal Warriors, published by Sega. This hack and slash title pulled an 8.4 from IGN and an 8.3 from GameSpot. We're really getting into the high scores now. GameSpot said that the game's presentation was second to none. They advised gamers to check it out if you're sick of all the cookie-cutter action titles of the time. They also referenced the game's cast of characters as a real point of differential. IGN used the term beautiful destruction as they gushed over the game's quality in their review. You can pick this one up for about $13 loose and $17 complete. Number 2. We're going to drastically change up the genre now. This one sold just 10,000 copies, among the lowest on the system, and that probably should have put it at my number 1 hidden gem, but I went in a different direction as you'll see in a moment. Instead, our number 2 game is Moto GP 3, Ultimate Racing Technology. The game's title's a mouthful, but this one pulled a pair of 8.9s in the review department, and it's super rare that a game gets the same score from both outlets. IGN called the game outstanding, simulation motorcycling at its best, with a super deep single-player mode full of unlockables and reasons to keep you coming back. GameSpot gushed over the tight racing mechanics and said that this is the game to get if you're a motorcycle racing fan on any level. You can get this one extremely cheap today, around $4 loose and $5 complete. Number 1. It's time. Time for the top of the list. With 50,000 units sold originally, it's Death Row, Underground Team Combat. I put this one at the top of the list because it's just so damn original, and the reviews agreed, with IGN giving it a massive 9.3 and GameSpot a very high 8.7. GameSpot pointed out that the game could have been a lazy effort that tried to get by on its edgy dialogue and graphics, but instead, they described it as a great and intense game with significant challenge and value, even for those that only play the single-player mode. IGN said that the game has serious attitude, great arenas, and great gameplay. Even back in 2002, IGN called the game a potential sleeper that might be overlooked by many. And some 16 years later, I would say that they hit the nail on the head. I hadn't even heard of this game until I crunched the numbers for this analysis. And you can pick Death Row up pretty cheap, around $9 loose and $10 complete. One of the reasons I did this analysis was to try and discover new games for myself, and so I have to ask you, have I missed any hidden gems that you've discovered in your travels? If so, I'd genuinely like to know. I have an original Xbox and I'm always on the lookout for something undiscovered and interesting. That's it for me, thanks so much for watching, I hope you had a good time, and in the meantime, I wish you all the best, and the sky is the limit.